Senzo Mchunu says President Ramaphosa agreed to his decision to disband the political killings task team, but only after the fact. Meanwhile, an explosive phone recording featuring Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and Mchunu's chief of staff surfaced in Parliament. What happened on this pivotal day in the ad hoc committee unfurling this Mkhwanazi saga? Let's dive in. Spread the fire. Welcome back to the Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh experience, or SMWX. Fam, I'm going to get right into it because there was an explosive session at the ad hoc committee today. I thought I was going to take a break this weekend, people. But no, here I am, back, doing another analysis video for you. Two big things happened in the committee today. Number one, Senzo Mchunu said that President Ramaphosa knew about the political killings task team disbandment and agreed to it, but only after the fact. I'll explain why this is extremely important, politically speaking, and why it means Ramaphosa absolutely has to testify before both the commission and the ad hoc committee. Second, there was an explosive, secretly recorded telephonic conversation between General Mkhwanazi and Senzo Mchunu's chief of staff, Mr. Nkabinde. And we'll go through that recording because it sent some shockwaves through Parliament. Okay, let's begin with the minister's admission that the president agreed to the disbandment of the political killings task team. Now, one of the questions which has been hanging in the air right from the day that Mkhwanazi launched his press conference of the 6th of July is, did the President Ramaphosa, condone, agree to, endorse the disbandment of this task team that Mkhwanazi said was beginning to unravel a criminal syndicate with high links to politicians? And up to this point, it hasn't been clear whether the president knew or didn't know. Now, Mkhwanazi, in his evidence before both the commission and the parliamentary committee, said he asked the police commissioner, Mr. Masemola, General Masemola, to please tell the president or ask the president if he was aware of this decision to disband, in an attempt to stop this from happening, because Mkhwanazi wanted with every fiber in his being the political killings task team to continue its work, its investigations. Now, what did Masemola say the president said in reply when he was put before the commission? He said he spoke to the president. So Mkhwanazi said Masemola never got back to him on whether he was able to get feedback from the president about whether he knew about the disbandment of the task team. Masemola then said, well, I spoke to the president in February and he looked shocked when I told him. That's all we know right now. So, today's evidence is crucial because it adds a further piece to the puzzle, because the minister says he briefed the president on the disbandment directive of the 31st of December. But he only briefed him after the fact, which is already weird, but we're going to get into that. So he says somewhere in January, February, by the way, we need to get this date. The parliamentarians who ask questions next week need to know the date of this. He says somewhere in Jan or Feb, he had a relatively brief meeting with the president whose purpose was to discuss the disbandment directive. And he said, and I'm going to demonstrate it to you, he said that the president agreed with the disbandment directive. I'm going to play you quite a long clip, but it's important that you get all of this context because I don't want the clip to go out of context. I also can't just play you the entire hearing because it was many hours. So do go back and watch our live stream of the hearing. But I want you to watch this clip. Initially, the evidence leader himself even seems to be saying, there's no way that you're saying that the president agreed to this. But as the conversation unfolds, you will see that a number of point-blank questions end up being asked to Mchunu via both the ANC MP Nhlanhla and then Julius Malema. And at some point, Julius Malema says, this is going to be important, so we need to get this straight. Did the president agree? And you will see that the minister ultimately says, yes. And then finally, the chairperson reinforces that to say, is the answer that we are getting that he agreed? And the minister says, yes. But don't take it from me. I'm going to take you to the hearings themselves. Have a look at this exchange on the president's knowledge of and the briefing over the disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team directive.
Well, it sounds to me that you conveyed what you did to the president. The president heard what you had to say and basically noted it. An agreement, let's not become technical. I think we know what an agreement means. Two or more people discuss something. They put whatever is on the table that requires an agreement. They engage and then they say, okay, fine. Here it sounds like there was no engagement. You informed the president of your decision.
I briefed the president.
Yes, you briefed the same thing. You briefed the president.
Mm-hmm.
But the president didn't engage you. He couldn't. You didn't give him any reasons. You never told him why you wanted the task team to be disestablished, so that the president could say, oh, okay, but why X, Y, and Z? And then you engage in a discussion. It was a short meeting. So you briefed him in short, and he noted what you had to say. There couldn't have been an agreement.
Senior Counsel, I am pleading with you to note that there are different forms of engaging, even with the president. You can go and ask to make a presentation. If you are granted an opportunity, you will make that presentation. You can ask for a short period just to brief him on something, and then if it's granted, you do so. It takes different forms. In this instance, it was a briefing from my side, and I don't think there was anything wrong in me using that word, unless it is demonstrated to me that this was wrong. But what I'm saying in my statement, I did brief the president. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
After the effect, after the 31st.
Yes, I was just questioning whether you could say there was an agreement or that the president agreed with the director, given that it was a briefing and it was short. That's what I was questioning.
Yes.
But if you're happy with the response, then we can move on. Again, I'm not here as a judge to sit and discuss what constitutes an agreement. I've just questioned whether it was appropriate to use.
Just a moment, Honorable Nhlanhla.
Chancellor, thanks, Chair. Just a second. I think it is important for us to explain to the witness why the evidence leader is emphasizing agreement. It's solely because the main witness had casted doubt whether the president would have agreed for a dissolution of a political killings task team. So that's why the evidence leader is emphatic when it comes whether or not the president agreed. Because the main witness went to an extent of saying the president made an address in Northern Cape and he would have applauded the work done by the political killings task team, and therefore the main witness does not believe that the president would have agreed to such a kind of a decision. So that's why the evidence leader is emphasizing on the agreement. Thank you very much, Chair.
May I proceed, Honorable Chair?
He has helped you.
Yeah, I asked.
Just one more moment. Honorable Malem.
No, thanks, Chair. I think we must put it simple because it's going to be a serious issue. Did the president agree to the disbandment of PKTT?
The answer in the affidavit is that I briefed the president. He agreed with the briefing I gave him.
So, Honorable Minister, is the answer yes?
Yes, as is in the affidavit.
The answer is yes. The answer which we must record is yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
There can be absolutely no doubt after that exchange that the effect of the evidence that was given is that Minister Senzo Mchunu says that the president agreed with his briefing on the disbandment of the political killings task team. The answer was yes, the president agreed. Julius Malema, let me start from the top actually, because there's a lot we need to unpack here. On the 5th of March, 2025, there was a incredibly important police portfolio committee meeting in Parliament. And there, for the first time, Mkhwanazi made these allegations about Brown Mokgotsi being an associate of the minister, etc. Now, at that same meeting, Minister Senzo Mchunu said that he had taken this decision to disband the political killings task team, and that he had had conversations with the president and they had agreed over this matter back in March in Parliament. So now, Advocate Nomaan, the evidence leader, fast forward to October 2025, is asking Mchunu, how could you say in Parliament that the president agreed with the disbandment decision? Now, initially, Arendse almost seemed to be giving Mchunu an opportunity to say that it wasn't an agreement, which is probably what you would expect from Mchunu, because the last thing the ANC wants, the last thing the president wants is to be implicated in agreeing to the disbandment of the task team, right? That means he went against everything that Mkhwanazi has complained about. He condoned a decision to disband this unit, which is the whole point of this entire political earthquake, right? So Arendse, initially, the evidence leader, was saying it couldn't have been an agreement, could it? He merely noted it. But Mchunu says no. And then ANC MP Ola Ngola comes in with an absolutely pivotal moment to clarify what was going on. And Ngola says, hold on, Mkhwanazi says that the president gave a speech subsequent to the disbandment decision kind of praising this team. So Mkhwanazi seems to think the president didn't agree with the disbandment. So did he agree or didn't he agree? Malema, an equally important intervention, says, hold on, this is going to get muddied, and people are already trying to muddy this, and this is why I had to play you the whole clip. Malema, and I quote him verbatim, says, Minister, did the president agree with the disbandment of the political killings task team? The chair further follows up to say, is your answer to this question yes? And eventually, Minister Mchunu's answer is yes. And that yes can only be to the point-blank question, did the president agree to the disbandment of the political killings task team? Which is the final question that Malema asked to clarify the pointed intervention. So a couple of things flow from this which have potentially seismic consequences politically. Number one, when Mchunu was on his way to delivering this answer of yes, which we know categorically now he has delivered and he can't now depart from, he tried to point to his statement, his witness statement or his affidavit, where he says he talks about this briefing to the president in January or February, and he says the president agreed. Here's the problem. I don't find that anywhere in his statement. I went through it again today. I don't find it in his statement. Now, maybe I have an old version of the statement. It's a signed version that I have. But I'm now calling on anyone who has a version of the statement to produce the part where he says he had a meeting with the president in Jan or Feb, and the president agreed to the disbandment, because it doesn't seem to be in the statement. Yet in Parliament, he said, you don't need to ask me, just look at my statement, before he was ultimately forced to say he agreed. So I could be wrong. I could have an old version of the statement. Maybe it's in some annexure somewhere further down, but he wasn't able to point to a page. So at the very least, I would like to know at the next parliament sitting on which page of the statement is this meeting with the president. Because I did a text search for the word president. I did a text search for the word briefing. I went through the statement again, and I can't find anywhere where the minister divulges this information. So there's that. It doesn't seem to be in the statement. Number two, the political implications here are quite serious, right? Because up to this point, the presidency has sought to remain aloof, distance itself from all of this, create a gap between the minister and Mkhwanazi, and create this into a police dispute, right? But if he knew about the disbandment and got a direct briefing about this issue from the minister as early as Jan or Feb, then he has to come to the commission to explain why he agreed with the briefing. Or he has to dispute that he agreed with the briefing. And it doesn't look good either way. Because here's the thing. If Mchunu is telling the truth, that the president agreed to the disbandment, then the president is now complicit in the disbandment decision, albeit belatedly, but he didn't do anything to stop it. Right? Even as Masemola, that same month, expressed his concerns. So, at the very least, he was a willful, if unwitting participant in the disbandment of this, or the directive to disband, and did nothing to prevent that. But if Mchunu is not telling the truth, then then you have a minister who's not telling the truth to the commission. So the president is going to have to confirm or deny that there was this briefing, and he's going to have to confirm or deny whether he agreed to disband the political killings task team or not. Either way, the optics are atrocious. So the other thing that we need to know is which came first, this briefing or the Masemola Ramaphosa engagement, where Masemola reports that the president looked shocked. Another reason why the president has to come, because he has to answer this question. Number one, did you meet with the minister on whatever date it was in Jan and Feb? Did you agree with the briefing that the minister gave you on the disbandment, as the minister alleges? Did you meet with Masemola? Did Masemola tell you about the disbandment? What did you say about it? Did you look shocked? What did you say to Masemola? Because if the Masemola meeting happened before the briefing, that makes sense, because the president would have been shocked because he wouldn't have known, according to the Mchunu evidence. But if he met Masemola after the briefing, he couldn't have been shocked because he knew that the directive had been issued, and according to Mchunu, he agreed with it. Politically speaking, Mchunu and Ramaphosa are political allies. Ramaphosa has appointed him to high office, and Mchunu ran as his Secretary General in 2017. So he was going to be the CEO of the ANC while Cyril Ramaphosa was going to be the president. And Mchunu only lost out by a few votes. And yet today it seems Mchunu is kind of throwing the president under the bus with him, at least saying, look, I wasn't the only one taking this decision. The president knew about it eventually. He might not have known about it when I sent the letter, which is also weird, because why would you take this disbandment decision and not inform the president beforehand if the president was responsible for setting up this interministerial committee which produced the task team? So that's strange in and of itself, but let's assume this version is correct. We know that at least in Jan or Feb, President Ramaphosa knew about this. So Mchunu is effectively saying, if you ask me, and now I'm interpreting here, no, it wasn't just me. Everyone knew about this. So if you're going to come for me, you're going to have to come for everyone, because I wasn't the only person who knew about this, at least from Jan, Feb. And in fact, far from telling me not to do this, the president agreed. So that has massive political implications, and it also fractures the Ramaphosa faction, which itself has been relatively coherent, but now even people within this side of the ANC are saying, I'm not going down alone on this, basically. So it's big. It's very big. And let me once again caveat this. This commission is going to unfold. We're not at the end, and only at the end of the process can you come to definitive conclusions. But this evidence is important because it directly asserts something that either needs to be approved or denied. And it means that these decisions were considered right at the apex of South Africa's government all the way down. As if that wasn't enough, we also had this bombshell recording. So Mchunu also admitted that when he issued this letter to disband the political killings task team, which was so important to Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, because Mkhwanazi maintains the task team was unraveling criminal syndicates linked to politics. When that happened, when the letter was sent, Mkhwanazi apparently became very angry. And Mkhwanazi had a telephonic conversation with the minister's chief of staff to try and tell the minister's chief of staff, to effectively tell the minister, don't do this. Don't do this. Now, Mchunu knew that this conversation was going to happen and admitted in Parliament to saying that the chief of staff must record this conversation. So, unbeknownst to Mkhwanazi, this telephonic conversation was recorded by Mchunu's chief of staff, who was the other person in the conversation. So I'm going to play you a section of what was played in Parliament because it has translation, and then we'll talk through what else was played in this recording and what it reveals, because I'm not so convinced myself that it's actually bad for Mkhwanazi at all. But take a listen and let's come back. This is what the telephonic conversation said that has now been shared publicly in Parliament.
Fanele ngabe ubhalile la ukuthi akayiyeke lento mengabe clean.
He should have written it down herein if you said he should stop this thing if he is clean.
And
if he never took anything from anybody. So such information is very crucial. He should have written those if he was listening to our telephonic conversations. Because he was not going to deliberately omit that, because it is in line with what he has alleged.
Around
all the issues he has raised. He has not even raised the issue of the warrant. You have correctly explained it, that all this is about a fight back.
I'm sure now Monisha phela ngoba uyamazi awuqala ukumazi manje. Ukuthi kuzoba ne fight back la mawuzazi uclean.
And you want him because you know him. You did not know him just now. You have known him for a long time. And fight backs are always there.
Yeah,
because that's what they're going to do.
Because if you tamper with the police, yet you are not clean, police will go after you. I will stop there, Chairperson.
So, what do we have here? We have a conversation between the Chief of Staff of the Minister and Mkhwanazi, ngesiZulu, that is being translated by the parliamentary translator. Now, there's a longer version of this that was played earlier in the day, and I would implore you to go and check our live stream and listen back to that longer version of the clip, because it's fascinating. But basically, this is a summary of why it's important and what was said. Mkhwanazi is telling Nkabinde, the chief of staff to the minister, that you can't stop a political killings task team while it's in the middle of important investigations. And he says, if you had intelligence, then you could give us a briefing and say, okay, this is why. But you can't just summarily stop it because you say that this task team's not adding anything to policing. And his own officials, in the longer version of this clip, he seems to suggest, I must say, I'm recording this immediately after, but we need interpretation and translation, and it's also quite hard to hear exactly what's being said because of the audio quality. But I'm giving my best first shot. Mkhwanazi goes on to say in the longer version that so Nkabinde says, you warned of a fight back. Presumably in a previous conversation they had, Mkhwanazi was saying, if you take this decision, there's going to be a fight back. And Mkhwanazi was also saying, if you just leave police in this position, they can flip on you and they can effectively find dirt on you and use it against you. So effectively, you must make sure that you're clean and that you haven't taken anything from anyone. Now, there are other parts of this clip which are even harder to hear because the audio quality dips. But he talks about a General Khan and a Julius, but we don't exactly, this could be Julius Mkhwanazi, Julius Malema, but we don't know. It's not clear from that. We also have some conversations about Mdluli and Zuma, but again, the quality isn't great there. But I'm asking people to go back to that part in the comments down below, give your interpretations and translations of what was said. So, what we have is Minister Mchunu asked his chief of staff to record a conversation which was had with Mkhwanazi. Effectively, that conversation pretty much just shows what Mkhwanazi has been saying all along. He was very agitated that this task team was disbanded summarily in the middle of investigations, and he wanted to try and implore the chief of staff to tell the minister that this is not a good idea. And I guess Senzo Mchunu is trying to say that there was a threat in there that that police were going to dig up dirt on him if he continued with this decision. But it does seem to be that Mkhwanazi is just rendering what has happened in the past, or what he believes has happened in the past. And he's almost trying to warn the minister, don't do this, because these are the kinds of consequences that can flow if police think you are tampering with their investigations. So there was that too. Look, there's so much happening in Parliament today. Minister Mchunu is going to be back on Tuesday, and I'm hoping that some of our MPs watch this video because there's some questions that he absolutely has to be asked in that session, which I've outlined here. Number one, what was that date? What was the date of that briefing? Now, in other parts of Minister Mchunu's statement, he's able to give us a blow-by-blow account of his schedule, because he says he wasn't at the ANC gala dinner on January 8th, and he prints out his schedule. So if he can print out a schedule to prove he wasn't somewhere, he can tell us the date of when that briefing was with the president. So we need that date. We then need to know if that date was before or after the Masemola conversation with the president. We need to know if he does state in his statement that he had the briefing with the president, and if so, where and on what page and what paragraph. And then he needs to be probed on that evidence. And if it's not in the statement, because in the brief time I had before this episode, I couldn't find it, then why did he say it was in his statement when it wasn't in the statement? For Minister Mchunu, of course, he's going to move on to explaining the Katmatlala Brown Mokhotsi alleged links, and he's going to distance himself from Katmatlala, who he says he doesn't know, and Brown Mokhotsi, who he says is someone who he occupies the same party with, but is not a close associate at all. And he's going to have to convince the public that he has no relationship with them, and that the WhatsApps which appear to link him to meetings with them are flatly false. So a lot more to come next week. We're going to take a little bit of a break this weekend, take a breather, but don't worry, we'll recharge because next week we're back with the vengeance. Minister Mchunu will be in Parliament. Hopefully the ad hoc committee will keep going. Hopefully the Nhlanhla Commission will be back to being in public. And former Minister Bheki Cele is coming to Parliament at the end of next week. So strap in your seatbelts, fam. It's going to be fun. Like, share, subscribe. Keep it locked on SMWX. Have yourself a good weekend. And see you on the next one. I hear you.